More than 1 million fewer students enrolled in college since the pandemic hit, which was the largest decline in 50 years. New research from the National Student Clearinghouse reveals undergraduate enrollment fell for the second year in a row. Colleges and universities saw a 3.1% drop, about 500,000 fewer students in the fall of 2021. That's on top of the decline over 500,000 from the previous year. Enrollment at community colleges saw the most precipitous drop, falling 13% since the start of the pandemic. The gap between high-income students and low-income students attending college also widened. Among the 2020 high school graduates, students from low-income backgrounds had disproportionately low enrollment numbers, as did students coming from high schools where the majority of students were Black or Hispanic. For many, the American dream had been tied to higher education. But for more and more students, is that dream now untenable? Joining me now to discuss, Danielle Douglas-Gabriel, National Higher Education reporter for the Washington Post. So Danielle, help us to understand the why here.
There are a couple of reasons why, Charles. And first, thank you for having me. I think we are seeing some pandemic induced decisions by students to forego college in part. Some of them are scared to come onto campus because it didn't feel safe, especially in the first year. Others are having to make the tough choice of having to work to help their families, especially after a lot of folks lost their jobs earlier on in the pandemic. And then now I think what we're seeing here, and I think that's why it's particularly concerning, is that a lot of those sorts of situations have shifted for folks. We're seeing a lot of job openings. We're seeing a stronger economy in terms of wage growth and stuff, especially at entry level positions. But that seems to be siphoning off would-be students. Students are saying to themselves, well, I can make money right now rather than spend the next 2 or 4 years in school spending money, potentially taking on debt for a degree when I can just be earning right now for to support myself and my family. The trouble with that is that it's a very short-term perspective. We know that college graduates or people with at least some post-secondary credentials tend to earn much more over their lifetime. And if we're losing that population and that generation of students, then that could be really detrimental to the economy.
Let me ask one more factor to this equation. We've noticed, or what the economists have called it, the big quit, where people are just reassessing their lives completely. They're just saying, I won't work for these kind of people. I won't work these kinds of hours. I'm just going to quit jobs that I do not like. Does this higher education drop play into that kind of psychology in any way, where people are just saying, this is just not something I want to do right now?
I think so in part. There's more data coming out kind of surveying how student sentiments about the value of higher education. I think the national conversation around student debt has kind of maybe eclipsed discussion about the value of higher education in a way that has given a lot of students pause. Again, the strength of the economy right now in terms of the amount of job openings, especially at entry level positions, which is where you would see a lot of high school graduates succeed. So if they're looking at truck driving openings and such where they can make 18, $20 an hour right now, which seems like a lot of money and a good amount of money to earn at that stage, then it's not as attractive for them to want to pursue higher education in any form.
But let's stay on the student loan issue. You reported earlier today that one of the country's largest student loan companies entered into a $1.8 billion settlement with state attorneys general over its predatory loans. Black people are generally more saddled with this debt than anyone else. It delays all sorts of things in their lives. You know, it, I understand what you're saying about the long-term benefits of higher education. Is there some give, though? A lot of people, I remember this survey recently about where they asked students, did they think it was worth it to take out all those loans? And many of those students said that it was not to them worth it, and they would not have done it again. You know, what do you think is the push-pull, the over-under on taking out all those loans in this environment when you have an economy that cannot seem to get enough jobs, get enough employees for jobs right now?
I think you have to start looking at the institutions themselves. We are at this moment where families and students are saying, debt financing for my education is not sustainable. We are seeing it in the kind of debt burdens that a lot of people of color have to take on, especially a lot of Black women, in order to upskill and make themselves more presentable to the job market because of labor market discrimination. And schools have to think about those things when they are making offers to students to come to their schools. Can you afford to ensure that they can go without having to take on crushing debt? And you are starting to see a couple of schools really thinking more about that. We certainly saw a lot of schools, particularly a lot of HBCUs, using what federal relief money they received as a result of COVID to try to pay off student account balances to help them to re-enroll, to try to offer them some sort of emergency relief, thinking about the fact that they have needs beyond the campus. There are a lot of students that are parents there who have to worry about childcare. There are a lot of students who have to take care of families. And we are at a point where institutions can't continue on ignoring the realities of the populations that they say they want to serve. And so, if that means more fundraising to increase institutional dollars so that people don't have to constantly turn to the federal market or to the private market in order to finance their education, then that has to be a part of the conversation going forward, or else you risk losing a generation of would be workers, of potential contribution to this economy as a result of thinking about higher education that is just stalled.
Let me switch to another question. There's been quite a bit of talk that some colleges simply will not survive this pandemic, that there's too many stresses on them, that their finances just, their finances were already kind of shaky, and that the pandemic is just blowing a hole in that. What role will this kind of lagging enrollment play in that? Is that like a death knell for some of these schools?
It could be, there was a lot of discussion that we would see waves of closures, which haven't really materialized yet. But some of that tends to be a slow moving phenomenon rather than something that will quickly happen. And for the schools where you are starting to see that they are teetering on the edge, that's been the case for a while. And I think it's also important to note that with these enrollment drops, this isn't all just about the pandemic. There are two things were happening long before COVID. One, enrollment tends to be low when the economy is doing well. People make the decision to work rather than to go to school. And we were already seeing that. The other thing is what folks in higher education call the demographic cliff. There are simply not going to be enough high school graduates in the coming years to fill all the seats at the colleges that we have in this country. Some schools have been smart about how they're trying to strategize around that by looking at the population, and it's a large population of people who have some college degree, some college credits, but no college degree, and trying to reach out to them and say, hey, we want you back. I think of Morehouse and what they did with their recent program to expand online to reach out to Morehouse men who were never able to make it to the graduation stage and bring them back in and help them to complete their degree. A lot more schools are going to have to be a lot more strategic and savvy if they want to survive this for the coming years.